Guys, Mosa here, and today I'm bringing you my Week 1 NFL Power Rankings. Now, without a further ado, let's get started. Now, kicking it off in dead last, we have the Carolina Panthers. I believe the Panthers are dead last, even though I believe they kinda made a little bit better of their team. I still believe them to be the worst team in the NFL from last year. Obviously, they didn't have the first overall pick, but we all know why they didn't. But they were the worst team, anyways. The point is, I still think they're dead last, and I don't really expect them to do much against New Orleans this week. Up next, we got the 31st team, and I will believe that is the New England Patriots. Patriots did a fine job getting a new quarterback, but the real problem is they could have gotten a lot more if they just traded that for some picks from the New York Giants or some other QB needy team, or a QB, not a QB needy team, but a team desperate for a new quarterback. In the end, well, it didn't do too bad with picking their new quarterback. It's just going to be a rebuild under a new regime. Bill Belichick's no longer there. Let's just see what this new team can do against the Bengals this week. Now, moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals will take on the Bills this week. I believe the Cardinals, it's more of a, I just can't give them more than they have. Like, they've done some good things, but it's still not enough to raise them out of the bottom four. And I think that they'll be a decent team this year, but they'll not be a playoff team, but a relatively decent team. In the end, Kyler Murray's going to have to do a lot for this team to get back into playoff contention. Up next, we got the Washington Commanders, and the Commanders with their new quarterback, Jaden Daniels. I'm going to just say this. Jaden, I'm happy that they took him, but I believe that it would have worked better with the other guy, Drake May, who the Patriots took right afterwards. In the end, it doesn't matter. They didn't do too bad this offseason. They're still bottom team. They still need to do a lot. They got to take on the Eagles and the Cowboys this year. Those are the two teams that in the NFC East, they're going to be the top teams. They're going to have to work their butts off to get into the playoffs as a wild card because they're not winning the division. Now, moving on to the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, they just lost their star quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. That is going to be terrible. They're not going to be good this year with Sam Darnold. Maybe they will, who knows? But the point is, I don't believe in the Vikings under Darnold. I honestly expected them to do a little bit better in the regular season with J.J. McCarthy. But with Sam Darnold, unless he starts making himself like a decent journeyman quarterback or something, just making sure that his team is making the plays they need to do. Unless that happens, I don't see any future for the Vikings this year. Now, moving on to the New York Giants. The Giants, okay. Well, they did good in the draft, taking a receiver like Malik Nabers. He's been very good in the preseason and training camp. I believe that the Giants have enough to do what they need to do. But the question is, do the New York Giants have enough firepower to take on in the NFC East? I think it's more or less going to be them fighting for a wild card spot, just like Washington. I don't think they're going to be challenging Dallas or Philadelphia for that division title. In the end, their game against Minnesota, it's probably going to be a win, potentially. It's a 50-50 for that game. But let's see what they do, because honestly, I think having Malik Nabers but losing Saquon Barkley is going to be like a 50-50 for the New York Giants. Now on to the Denver Broncos at 26. Broncos. Well, let's just say this. The Broncos, at the least, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They have been doing a fine job with Bo Nix, and I think they might have a chance to actually get a week 1 win. Might. In the end, the Seattle Seahawks are pretty good as well. Geno Smith has not let the Seahawks down, so let's see how that happens. But in the end, when it comes to Denver, they've been doing pretty well in this preseason, and I think they have a shot at least a wild card spot or just missing the playoffs by one game. Now on to the Las Vegas Raiders at 25. They'll be taking on the LA Chargers this week, but I must say this, the Raiders, they need a quarterback in the next draft. I guarantee you that. Unless Aiden O'Connell gets the starting job at one point in the season and then becomes the guy for the Las Vegas Raiders, it's going to be basically, okay, if we get a top pick, at least we get Shadir Sanders or Quinn Ewers or something like that in the next draft. In the end, they are a decently good team that will most likely, just like Denver, be 50-50 when it comes into the wild card. Now, moving on to the New Orleans Saints, we got them taking on the Panthers this week. Derek Carr. I'm not really hyping up on Derek Carr. I think Carr is going to be a very decent quarterback this season, but a playoff contender, the Saints might not be that this year. In the end, I think just like the Raiders and Broncos, they're going to be right there neck and neck for that wild card spot, but I don't think they can actually make it. But you never know, anything could happen in this league. Now on to the Tennessee Titans at 23. We'll be taking on the Chicago Bears. Now, do I think the Bears are better than the Titans for this week? We'll tell you that and hopefully when I make the weekly NFL video. But in the end, when it comes down to it, Tennessee has been doing a recently good job. But the loss of Derrick Henry is going to be a very big loss for the Tennessee Titans. So it's most likely that they'll be battling for a wild card spot, or they'll be a top 5, top 10 team come draft day. But in the end, Tennessee, I'm not seeing them really as that good of a team. Now moving on to number 22, my Seattle Seahawks. Going up against Denver, it's going to be a very tough game against Bo Nix in that Denver offense. Hopefully, Geno Smith can take down that Denver defense with no issues. But in the end, putting my bias aside, Seattle is going to be a playoff contender for the wild card. At the least, I think they could get a sixth seed. At the worst, they miss the playoffs. That's what I believe Seattle will be this year. They're not going to potentially, they may win playoff game, but after that, maybe not. But in the end, I think Seattle will be recently be a very good team for this NFL season. But in the end, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of Seattle. Now on to the Chicago Bears. The Bears taking on the Titans. Have not liked how their quarterback, Caleb Williams, has been performing. I think Caleb Williams might struggle this year. But the Chicago Bears aren't a playoff team. I don't think yet. You still got the Packers and the Lions. And you got the Vikings. You may be able to beat them out. But when it comes to Detroit and Green Bay, you're going to have to at least win one of the games against them. Otherwise, you ain't making anything. And honestly, getting Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams was a good idea, but if they don't perform for the next 4 years, you're screwed. Now on to the Atlanta Falcons. I did not, under any circumstances, think it was a good idea for them to select the quarterback in the first round. If you wanted Penix, you could have gotten him in the later rounds. Obviously, they got Kirk Cousins, so that's mainly the reason why I think quarterback was a horrible option. But I think with Kirk Cousins, the Falcons will be able to push their team into a wild card spot. But Kirk Cousins not good in the playoffs, so yeah, I'm not seeing that much success from them past the regular season. In the end, yeah, the Falcons are going to be good regular season wise, but not in the postseason. Now on to the LA Chargers. 19th, I'm putting them, and to be honest, they are going to be a very good team with Jim Harbaugh. If I'm not mistaken, that's the Ravens head coach is John. Jim is their head coach. But in the end, they're going to be a very good team to watch. I think Justin Herbert might do a little bit better. Getting Blake Corum, who played under Harbaugh at Michigan, is a very good idea. Gus Edwards. Just getting that running base team, I think that's going to be a lot for the Los Angeles Chargers this year. But in the end, when it comes down to it, will they make a playoff push? I think it's a maybe. In the end, Kansas City is most likely to win that division, but you never know. You could see a LA Charger AFC West division title this year, but I highly doubt that. Now, on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Bucks. I mean, they have been doing pretty well last year. So I think that a repeat of what they did last year is not going to happen this year. They'll be a playoff team, maybe even division champions, but a first round playoff loss. That's what's going to happen to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're not going to make it out of the wild card. And to be honest, even though they got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and who they got in the backfield? I actually forgot. But they also got quarterback Baker Mayfield. I almost called him Blake for some reason. But Baker Mayfield in the quarterback position, very good defense still. They may have lost some guys there, but I'm still thinking they're a playoff team. But very, very, very short success in the postseason. Now, moving on to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I have them here at the midpoint of the power ranking because they've got a good team that I think could actually contend for a playoff push, even a division title push against the Houston Texans. The biggest question mark of them all is AR5 going to be ready? Anthony Richardson coming off of a season-ending injury last year. Could he be the guy that Indianapolis needs for the next 4 to potentially just 3 seasons, depending on what they do with the 5th-year option? In the end, I think that AR5 could potentially get back into it, but we won't know until they face off against the Texans this week. Now on to the New York Jets. Now the Jets coming off of a Aaron Rodgers-less season and getting rid of Zach Wilson. And I don't know, I think they brought in Tyrod Taylor or something. I don't remember who it was to back up Aaron Rodgers. In the end, will Rodgers play more than 4 snaps in this game against the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football? That's the problem with Aaron Rodgers right now. Will he be there for the Jets the entire season? I get it. Last year, they didn't have him. This year, they're going to have him. The question is, for how long? Will he be healthy enough? And I think he could. But in the end, that is what's on every Jets fan's minds right this second. How will Aaron Rodgers be performing, not only in this game, but for the entire season, as they will potentially have him for a full year? Now, on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And after a long time after the cut date, we already have the announcement that Russell Wilson will start for the Steelers. How will the Steelers perform under Russell Wilson? I still think they'll make a 500-plus record, but the real questions are, will Russell Wilson not only take them to the playoffs, but will he be the Russell Wilson in Seattle, or will he be the Russell Wilson in Denver? And that is the massive question all Pittsburgh Steelers fans are asking themselves. Is this going to be the guy who will lead us to the playoffs and through the playoffs, or will this guy be the same guy that he was in Denver under Nathaniel Hackett in his first year? In the end, I think he's going to be a okay quarterback, taking them to the playoffs, maybe losing in the first or second round. Really, Russell Wilson's time is coming up short. In the end, all thanks to Russell Wilson for what he did in Seattle, but he should really be thinking about his future in his post NFL career. Not yet, but pretty soon. Because if he keeps performing like this, like I don't think any other NFL team will be paying you a buttload of money. You're already making a buttload from Denver due to them cutting you. No other team's going to pay you that amount of money if you don't perform. Now, on the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Miami Dolphins in Miami. Now, when it comes down to it, what will the Jaguars be doing? I think Jacksonville will sort of. Depends on really how that offense, how Trevor Lawrence will perform this year. To be honest, I'm not expecting that much from Jacksonville. Not a playoff, maybe a playoff push, but not as a division champion. That's in between Indy and Houston. I have no faith in them winning the division, but it's completely different when it comes from them making a playoff push. And I think that is possible, but in the end, how far can they go? That is the true question. Now, moving on to the Los Angeles Rams and the LA Rams taking on the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. I think that this game is going to be honestly a very, very difficult game to know who will really win. But when it comes to the season, I think that the LA Rams have got a playoff push in their hands. I think that out of Seattle, Arizona, they are the best team other than San Francisco to make the playoffs out of the NFC West. And I think that 100% the Rams will be making it in. But a Super Bowl push? I don't think so. Now, moving on to the Dallas Cowboys at number 12, going up against Cleveland in Cleveland. Jerry Jones, what are you doing with your team? I'm very glad you paid CeeDee Lamb, but what about Prescott? Prescott's going to be pretty soon coming up and saying, hey, I want my money too. I mean, what are you doing? Are you just wanting to be like, oh, look at us, we're the Dallas Cowboys? Or do you want to go win a Super Bowl? Because you're not looking like the team who wants to go win a Super Bowl. And to be honest, you're still making the playoffs, but you're going to be making a quick exit in the first round once again like Green Bay did to you last year. Now moving on to the Cleveland Browns taking on the Dallas Cowboys at home at 11. In the end, Cleveland, you got a very good team. Even with or without Watson, you're a very good team. But your problem is that you paid Watson too much money. And because of that, you will fail. Because you're paying him too much money and to either be injured or not performing. You don't want that as a team. I believe that Cleveland made a mistake paying him that much money. Trading for him, that's one thing. Paying him that much money, that's another. And to be honest, if you still had Baker Mayfield, you would have been on an honestly decent team making the playoffs and potentially even a conference championship. Who knows? In the end, you're still making the playoffs. You're still going to that top area, but you better watch out because you might actually be the team to be eliminated in the first round or be one of the top 12 teams I have not making the playoffs at all. Now moving on to the Green Bay Packers going up against the Philadelphia Eagles on the first ever game played not on Friday night, because obviously we have Friday night games before. Thank you, COVID. But besides that, the first ever NFL international game in Brazil in the regular season. If I'm not mistaken, they have played a preseason game in the past, the NFL, in Brazil. This is the first regular season one. So we're going to be excited about that. But in the end, Green Bay, Jordan Love, and all these other guys, whether it goes to Christian Watson or any of their other receivers, or maybe some of their new running backs to replace Aaron Jones, or their defense, but with Quay Walker and all that, and Jair Alexander, I think that they're going to be pretty good. And to be honest, playoff team, 100%. Now, moving on to the Miami Dolphins taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're at number 9. And I think that Tua, Tyreek, Jalen, and all these other guys on offense, the defense, Jordan Brooks coming onto the team, that's pretty good acquirement for the Miami Dolphins. But to be honest, the Miami Dolphins need more than that. And to be honest, I think that they're going to be a top team. Bills still the top in the AFC East, but they're still a close second. And a playoff team, but they need more if they want to make a Super Bowl. Now on to the number 8 team, the Cincinnati Bengals, taking on the New England Patriots. I think that the Patriots and the Bengals game is going to be very interesting to watch. Still Bengals coming on top. But in the end, Joe Burrow, can he stay healthy? Can the Bengals do what they need to do to make that playoff push? That is the major questions, which I think that there are some of them, yes. I'm still iffy on Joe Burrow's injury, but I'm sure that the Bengals could make the playoffs this season. Don't think that there's anything really against them making the postseason this year. I think they can do it. Now, in the end, yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to do a lot. They're going to have to do a lot more than they have ever done to get back to the postseason and potentially a Super Bowl. Now, on to the Houston Texans. Now, the Texans, they're coming in at number 7, going against Indianapolis this week. I mean, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Jordan, forgot his last name, but the tight end. The defense, you got Mario Edwards Jr., you got other guys on that defense that are going to be pretty good. And Derek Stingley, Jeff Okuda. And I think that this Texans team is going to be 100% the AFC South champion. But maybe this is the year, second year, maybe a Russell Wilson where CJ Stroud gets his team to the playoffs after a failed previous year. And then in the second season takes them to the Super Bowl and wins against a big, tough NFC team. I don't know. But in the end, that could happen. Or they can just be smacked out of the playoffs in the first round. Who knows? But in the end, I think that the Houston Texans are going to be a very good team, and it's why I'm putting them at 7. Now, on to number 6, we got the Detroit Lions. And the Lions, they were incredible last year, nearly making the Super Bowl for the first time in their history. Still didn't make it, but still, Detroit. I think that this year could be your year. Maybe. Maybe another NFC Championship game, or maybe even a Super Bowl appearance against, who knows, maybe Kansas City, and you guys get whooped in the Super Bowl. But in the end, Jared Goff been doing a very good job. The offense, very good job. The defense, a very good job. And they'll continue doing a very good job under Dan Campbell. And Dan Campbell and his boys will 100% make it back to the playoffs, whether it be as the NFC North champions or as a wild card. Now, moving on to the Buffalo Bills, we got them taking on the Cardinals. Josh Allen, 100%, going to be the AFC East champion. And they're going to be making the playoffs, potentially an AFC Championship game, potentially a Super Bowl for the first time since the 90s, where they went to 4 consecutive Super Bowls and lost all of them. First team to make 4 consecutive Super Bowls and the first to lose 4 consecutive Super Bowls. In the end, will the Bills be that team this year? Or will they be the team to make it to the Super Bowl and win it? Don't know about that part. But I definitely know that they're going to be a very good team this year without Stephon Diggs and everything. But in the end, will they be able to take down Mahomes? That is the biggest question. Now entering in the top 4, I think that these 4 teams are potentially the 2 NFC and AFC teams to make it to the NFC and AFC championship game. And we started off with the Baltimore Ravens at number 4. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson is going to be hot this year. They're going to go for it. They're going to get that AFC North title. And they're going for that Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl run to cut them short of a 3rd consecutive Super Bowl something that has never happened in NFL history. And to be honest, it's going to be fun to watch if they do manage to destroy the Chiefs, as they are actually playing the Chiefs here on Thursday Night Football. But to be honest, could they actually defeat them? Well, we'll see. Now, moving on to the team who I believe will host the NFC title game, and that team is none other than the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles taking on the Packers. They're going to be a very good game to watch on Friday Night Football against each other in Sao Paulo. But besides the point, you got Jalen Hurts, you got AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and then you got guys like Saquon Barkley in the backfield. You got a very good defense. You're going to be insane if you think that this team ain't going to make the NFC title game at the minimum. That's what I believe. And to be honest, the team that's coming up next is potentially going to be their rival to face them in that NFC title game. Now, at number 2, we've got the team that I believe will be going to that NFC title game against Philly, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. Even though I completely hate the idea of them going back to the NFC title game and potentially a Super Bowl, it's just what I believe will happen. Now, whether they make it or not, that's besides the point. The point is, I'll be rooting for the Eagles if they do make the NFC title game, and I'll be rooting against them in the Super Bowl if they make it again. Besides the point. Point is, San Francisco has a lot of good players. They've got Ricky Pearsall, who they drafted this year, who honestly could be a very good receiver for them. Deebo Samuels, and Brandon Ayuk, who they just finally got contract extension. They've got George Kittle. They've got Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, and that whole defense with Fred Warner, Greenlaw, and all those other guys. To be honest, they're loaded. They're ready. And most likely will give the Jets a run for their money, potentially, depending on what happens with Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football. Now, on to the number 1 team in my power rankings. The number 1 team in the National Football League and the one to host the AFC Championship game. The Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously. We obviously knew I was going to put the Chiefs number 1, even though, maybe they'll be making the Super Bowl. Who knows? Maybe they'll break the record and win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. The first three-peat in NFL history, at least Super Bowl-wise. But in the end, when it comes down to it, Patrick Mahomes. You got Isaiah Pacheco. You got Hollywood Brown. You got other receivers, honestly, a bunch of them. Travis Kelce. You got the defense, just very good defense, led by Chris Jones. And to be honest, this team is one to watch and to be annoyed by when they win the Super Bowl, potentially for a 3rd consecutive time. Now, that was it for this video. I honestly believe this is what the 32 power ranking teams, in my opinion, are. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Who should be higher and who should be lower? Tell me down in the comments below. Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification if you want more videos. And I'll see you guys next time.